Welcome to HitEnter. I'm Samir Saberi and I'm absolutely thrilled to have Steven Schuurman, the CEO of Elastic, on the show, a company rumored to be the second Dutch unicorn. In this episode, I'm talking with Schuurman about the exponential growth of his company and if we are indeed at an inflection point with regard to big data. Enjoy the show. Steven, I'm absolutely thrilled to have you on the show. Thank you for being with us.
My pleasure. It's great to be here.
Steven, Elastic is quite famous or well known in technology space, but a lot of people out of the technology industry don't know Elastic. So can you tell us what Elastic actually does?
Absolutely. Well, Elastic is the company that created an open source platform which is referred to as the Elastic Stack. And basically what it is, it's a set of products which is together combined is a really versatile data platform used by very large and very small companies all over the world, many companies all over the world.
Can you name a few companies?
Of course, Netflix, Facebook, companies like ING Bank use it, but also the BBC, NASA. So it's lots of companies in various different market verticals from all over the world. And basically what they all do is they try to solve a very specific problem, and that is how do they extract value out of really large and sometimes super large volumes of data in real time. And sometimes it's through like vanilla regular search, like search as you with a search box. And
vanilla
sometimes
search,
it's
that's a nice term.
Yeah, exactly. So for example, one of the companies that does that is Wikipedia. So if you search Wikipedia, the actual Wikipedia, you search using our software, which is a regular search use case. And another use case is, for example, when you try to do more data analytics, you try to figure out trends on, for example, you want to do sentiment analysis on Twitter data. You can do that by analyzing the data structures in the data through the Elastic Stack as well. So that's what we do as a company. Because, well, on the one hand, we give away our software through the open source model. We also have to generate revenues.
Exactly.
And we do that by selling subscriptions. And the subscriptions basically consist of two parts. Number one, we have commercial extensions to the open source software. So things that are not available in open source, like security and alerting and notification, you can buy through the subscription. But you also get SLA-based support. So that's how we run the business.
Elastic was previously called Elasticsearch. So you broadened the scope of the company. Can you tell us what the company does besides search, what you just talked about?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the reality is that with Elasticsearch being called Elasticsearch and the vast majority of our users using us for vanilla, straightforward search solutions for the first couple years since since the project itself, Elasticsearch, was founded, but also when the company was founded. We thought it made a lot of sense to actually call the company Elasticsearch after its main product. But what we always envisioned after we founded the company is that we needed to expand our product stack basically in two directions. On the front end towards the user, so with more kind of UI, visual user interface kind of capabilities, and on the back end more towards various different data sources. And well, the front end became Kibana, and on the back end we had Logstash. Together making the Elastic Stack at that point in time. But what we also found is that as we started to expand the scope of our product stack, we also saw more and more people that initially started using the software for vanilla search. They started using it for analytics type capabilities. So basically aggregating different parts of the data and visualizing through pie charts, graphs, stacked bar charts, what have you, all kinds of visualizations, which ultimately evolved over the past year and a half, 2 years into a pretty comprehensive analytics stack that still is able to process and analyze data as it gets really big, as in petabytes of data spread out over hundreds and hundreds of servers. And the great thing about it is that you can still get results in kind of milliseconds, so you get real-time results, and that's why we said, okay, now this is becoming a big chunk of our usage across the globe. And Elasticsearch, it's still the core, but we do so much more yeah, people like the elasticity of what we do, so let's rebrand the company to Elastic. And it was received pretty well, so that was it.
Great. You just pointed to your point about elasticity. What does that actually hold?
Well,
with Elastic.
Yeah, elasticity. I think where this all originated from is the fact that when we started this company, and even when Shai Bannon, my co-founder, founded the project Elasticsearch, the open source product, the CTO of the company, he always felt like one of the biggest challenges that companies would be facing over time would be, how do you store and analyze and explore data as it scales? So you want to create a solution that you don't have to tweak and alter every single few weeks if you go from 50 gigs of data to 300
and it's
gigs.
Actually scaling all the time in real time.
Exactly, to hundreds of terabytes to petabytes. So he built a system, the core of the Elastic Stack, which is Elasticsearch, that is very, very good in scaling with the user, without asking for a lot of attention there. So it's very easy to basically stretch the product, make it elastic. So that's it.
Yeah. Do you think big data has been a buzzword for quite a while? Do you think that we are at an inflection point with big data and being able to drive really actionable insights from the data?
Well, I think, big data. I think that, look, I think there's a lot of data out there in many organizations. There's tons of organizations that measure a lot and subsequently are stuck with 300 terabytes of data and have no idea what to do with it.
Exactly, that's a problem.
That's one of the challenges that we're seeing in the market. And then if they try to explore it with some batch jobs and they get some nice insights, but okay, well, what do you really do with it? And how do you make it accessible to the common user within the company? I think this is one of the challenges that we see a lot, and is also one of the challenges that we get pulled in for to solve, provide a solution for more and more often. And in the context of big data, in my opinion, yes, it is a bit of a buzzword. I think a lot of data can be referred to as big data these days. But what I do think is a more realistic thing to talk about is getting the actionable insights out of larger volumes of data. And when it's plus more than 1 terabyte or more than a petabyte, I don't know. I'll leave that to the world to define what big data is. But what people are after is exploring data and exploring it in an easy way and in a very flexible way. And I think that's we've only scratched the surface of what can be done there, in my opinion.
Exactly. On the face of it, it seems the value proposition of big data seems very simple. You can, in the end, make better decisions at every level of your company. But somehow what you actually read and hear is that a lot of companies still struggle with the data and still struggle with analyzing the data.
Absolutely.
And getting the actionable insights from it.
Absolutely.
So I assume that you also, as Elastic, provide a solution to that, but also Cloudera, which is another company that also does that.
Yeah.
But somehow you're not seeing as somebody from outside the scene, maybe, you're not seeing really tangible results from all the buzz around big data. So I was wondering, do you see that with your clients, for example, or because you're much more into the field?
Yeah, well, look, it's the way we look at it. There's a few types of players out there that provide big data-ish or data-ish solutions at some sort of a scale, right? There are the Hadoop players, which are kind of, to my mind, kind of the original big data guys, right? There's the NoSQL players like MongoDB and some others that have more of a database type functionality. And then there's kind of the miscellaneous players that have some sort of an analytic solution. And then there's effectively search, which is almost exclusively these days Elastic that does big data search. There's a few other players in the market, but I think that we have the vast majority of the market share there. I think each of these players have a role in the ecosystem. And I think that where Hadoop, for example, is great if you don't require a real-time solution, if you actually have time to write a batch script and wait for an answer and insights for 24 hours or hours at least, then it's a wonderful solution because it's cheap. What we see is with the database players is that some folks want an actual database that's kind of semi-relational-ish and that kind of behaves a little bit like an original database. Well, some folks go for a NoSQL player. There's also folks that say, well, look, we want a much more versatile solution that can actually hold Hadoop scale data, which is not very expensive, that has database kind of functionalities, but we want to use it for all kinds of things, right? For financial data, transactional data, for things, but also we want to do social media analytics to figure out sentiments or something like that and trends in the marketplace. Or we want to ingest tons of network data because we want to do things like network breach detection, which is basically a security style solution. And I think that if people say, well, we want to have a solution that is more versatile, and kind of captures the best of many of those other kind of players, well then search can be a really interesting technology to use there. And yeah, I think that what we've seen over the past, especially the last 2 years, is that the world has kind of discovered what search technology can do and deliver as a value add to an organization beyond vanilla search. And that's also when I think that our star, the Elastic Star, started to rise much more faster than it did at the very beginning, because it became more mainstream and it was more, people were viewing search as, well, you know, there's NoSQL, there's Hadoop, but yeah, there's also search, and you know, there's some overlap here and there, and let's explore what these guys can do. And people seem to really like it because of the simplicity and the real-time aspect.
To your point about the rising star of Elastic, what does explain the exponential growth of Elastic?
That's a great question. I've been thinking about that for a little bit, of course. Also because, well, if you get something right, you want to do more of it.
Yeah, of course.
So yes, we have been thinking about that. I think at the very, very basis of our success are our products. It's the fact that we drove a set of open source product to market that basically originated with the founding team of each of these products actually listing out, well, what if I could create something new in the marketplace? What would be the perfect wish list? What if you want to create the perfect product? What does it look like?
The perfect product probably for yourself, of course.
The perfect product for to tackle a very specific problem.
Yeah.
And that is being able to dig through really large volumes of data and in the world of cloud technologies, right? With auto scaling and real-time responses, and in a way that's really, really user-friendly. That doesn't require you to hire a bunch of data scientists, of really, really hardcore developers. That basically works when you have a few DevOps, or even in the future, which is definitely where we want to take this, where it's also very accessible to IT operations people, at least parts of it. So I think it's a combination of a few things. Most concretely, solving a very specific problem, doing it in a very user-friendly way, and also being able to produce results in real time. Those are probably the key drivers.
Yeah. So you raised in the last few years. You actually co-founded the company in 2012. And you raised 104 million, if I'm correct, 104 million.
Yes, 104 million
dollars.
Dollars, yeah.
So what does actually change in a company? Maybe you can even delve a bit in the role of the founder when a company grows so fast.
Well, I think there's kind of two aspects to that question. Like, number one, what changes if you raise a lot of capital? And number two, how does the role of a founder evolve over time? I think raising capital doesn't necessarily change anything, except for that you get to do the things you really want to do and need to do within the business even before, your cash flow position allows you to do these types of things normally, right?
Yes.
So you can internationally expand much faster, hire better, more experienced, more expensive people within the executive team and within the rest of the staff. It's basically you get to do more of and what you want to do and get to do it quicker. So other than that, I don't think for me personally it didn't change anything at all.
Did it change the culture in your company?
No, I don't think it changed the culture of the company at all. No, we've also because
that's the thing you hear quite a lot, that you should be really careful of maintaining the culture.
Absolutely, and it is a massive pitfall. I think the pitfall is much bigger if you raise capital later, right? If you have a company that's with 30 people and you're a team and you've been around for 3, 4, 5 years and you raise capital, you've got kind of a set culture and a set way of doing things, and then having a lot of money in the bank all of a sudden has an impact on how people behave.
Yes.
For us, well, we founded the company in 2012. We raised our first round of venture capital in, I think it was August or something like that, of November, somewhere second half of 2012. And the company was too young to actually have an impact, for the fact that you have money to have an impact on how you go about things. And I think that there wasn't much of an impact there at all. So then to the second...
Fast forward in 2016, I don't know how many employees you have right now, but at a certain level you have to structure and organize your company in a different way. So...
absolutely, yeah. But it's we're a little bit over 300 people right now, right? We're spread out over 27 countries, with the main 2-3 points of gravity being in the US in the Bay Area, so Silicon Valley, and then in Europe there's 2 main hubs, Amsterdam and London, and then there's offices in quite a few other countries, also in Asia, but yes, we couldn't have achieved that kind of organizational growth without funding. So there is an impact, but culturally, I think that, we try to do what's right. We don't do any crazy things. There's no slides or swings or, I don't know, crazy stuff in or swimming pools in the offices. They're just regular offices.
Not even football table?
There's some football, there's ping pong, but it's not the same thing as a slide that goes around the building and everything like that. So we see weird stuff in Silicon Valley, but I think that we're quite Dutch, quite pragmatic from that perspective. And then, to your second part of the question about the role of the founder, I think there's definitely an evolutionary aspect to it, because I think initially when you found a company, you worry about everything from getting the invoices out to getting new customers in to recruiting new employees, keeping everybody happy, doing a great job at product development, taking it to market, hiring executives, everything. Yeah.
Even vacuum cleaning.
Doing the vacuum cleaning, mopping the windows, all kinds of goodness, and that's a lot of fun. Yeah. But I think as the company starts to scale, you get, depending on the founder, right? I think it's different for the founders on industry, depending on maturity, role, capabilities, personal interest of a founder. But I guess that how it worked for us is that we got a little bit more kind of out of the weeds, so to speak, of the operation. So no longer crunching purchase orders and sales orders and invoices and that type of stuff. But we got towards a point where I think that for Shai and myself, kind of one of the key things we focus on is, we see ourselves as kind of guardians of the company's culture, because we really try to build an organization where it's a lot of fun to work, where smart people work, and where smart people have a lot of room to do the things that they love doing, but still in a context of accountability. It's it's not a kiddie garden where you can play around and do whatever the hell you want.
Of course.
No, we've got some results to go after. So there's that aspect, and I think that the other part of the key responsibilities that lie with the founders is being able to shape a vision of where you want to take the company and subsequently translate that into more strategic goals, but also more tactical and operational goals, and then work with the team in figuring out how to get there. So I think there's those kinds of elements.
And how do you retain those smart people? Because Larry Page talked also about this, about you want to have a company that's entrepreneurial all the time, and you actually don't want the entrepreneurial people that take risk and develop new products, that they go away and build their own company. Or maybe you want, but how do you maintain those really smart people in your company?
Well, I think the key thing why people leave organizations is because, number one, they don't get to do what they really excel at, and secondly, well, if they kind of get to do what they want to, they don't feel a lot of support for what they're doing. So what we try to do is work with a broader team of people to kind of plot out where we're going commercially, where we're going from a product direction, get everybody at every level of the company really involved in that, and making the individual goals that we have on a timeline as concrete as possible, and subsequently saying, okay, well, now everybody knows what to do, get out of the way. Yeah. Right? It's there's no micromanagement going on, because I think that's what it makes people unhappy, especially smart people that are ambitious, that have that worked on putting a plan together, and they want to execute against it. And I also think that the second reason why we want to give people a lot of room is because I feel like bureaucracy and rules stifle innovation.
Exactly.
If you want something to be, if you want to create kind of call it an entrepreneurial, creative culture with accountability, you have to give people the tools, but then also actually get out of the way and give people a little bit of room and facilitate innovation. And you can't organize it. You can't have one group of people that has the job of innovate. It doesn't work like that. I think it never works like that.
So it never works like that, exactly. To your point about giving smart people all the leeway they need to excel at what they do, but at the same time also keep them accountable. How do you do that?
Well, what we try to do is balance things out. First of all, I think that some people are really good at being responsible, taking a lot of room, taking a lot of freedom, and translating that room and freedom and means into really tangible results. Other people have more difficulty with that, and it's typically kind of a combination of, number one, maturity and experience, but also type of person. One person loves to innovate and loves to create new things, thinking about the future of the company, and others are really good at crunching out a really hardcore, concrete technical problem. So it starts with really enabling and finding the right people and enabling them to do innovation. And I think that if you pick the right people, accountability is kind of comes together by itself, because if they feel like, well, I've been given this job or been given this freedom to cook up something new and fresh that could be very interesting to a very broad set of our users, and I can't come up with something, well, they feel horrible about it. And typically what actually happens is that it's kind of the other way around, is that somebody has a lot of freedom, comes up with something, and then we as an organization try to rally around that person to free him or her up to do even more of what he or she was already working on, and try to basically nurture and evolve and cultivate that idea into a product and a product vision for the foreseeable future. So hardcore accountability it's more about mindset than it is about us saying, well, look, it's 4:00. If you don't have it done by 5, something's broken here. Something's really wrong, or you have it done in next week. Got to have it done by next week. It works
that's
a little different.
Micromanagement.
That would be micromanagement, and that's not how it works now.
But in the end, it's tailoring also your role as a leader or as a manager to the specific person.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, in many cases, actually, we look for a certain profile of person to do a certain role, and then sometimes it happens that we run into somebody that's amazing. We weren't recruiting for the role, but pretty amazing person. Still get it, that person, and then craft something around it, right? Where you basically you create a role or a new development direction within the company because you found something that's truly exceptional.
Steven, I think we can argue that you're probably one of the most successful tech entrepreneurs in the Netherlands. You previously founded SpringSource, and even before that, Orange 11. SpringSource was sold to VMware in 2009. Can you tell us, myself, and the audience, what's, in your opinion, the most important trait for a founder to be a successful entrepreneur?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure whether I'm one of the more successful entrepreneurs or tech entrepreneurs in the Netherlands. I think there's lots of folks that are doing really well and that have achieved a lot more. But yeah, if I knew what was a great trade or the key traits to being a really successful tech entrepreneur, I'd probably write a book about it and try to sell that or something. Yeah. But yeah, it's a really hard question, because what you see is that there's lots of people out there, kids and established entrepreneurs as well, that sometimes create something, a service or a product. It's really amazing that when you hear about it, you think, okay, well, that's absolutely going to take off, and for whatever reason, it just doesn't. Mm-hmm. So I believe that to every kind of type of success, luck is always a certain component that you need to have. Mm-hmm. Then to answer the question, what makes you really good or what makes someone really successful, I think if you can kind of play the odds a little bit and really try to launch the right thing, whatever that may be, product, services, at the right time, I think, in a way where, I know what I do, and that is, I always assume that, I know what I want to do, but I can't do it by myself. Mm-hmm. So the key thing I've done for the past few times is what I think has made a massive contribution to the success that we've enjoyed with the previous companies, is build the team. But build the team with the very, very, very best people that you can surround yourself with. Mm-hmm. And those are ideally people that have kind of done certain parts of what you believe as an entrepreneur you will be trying to do over the next few years. They've kind of done before, and they've had some success with. And in certain cases, it's on the sales side, marketing side, product engineering side, but you need those people to be super, super successful and try to somehow trick them into joining you and build a company.
To your point, trick them into joining your company.
Yeah.
How do you do that as a bootstrapped first-time founder?
Well, I think that you pitch the vision hard, and you back the vision and the energy up with ideally hard data. Right, that's what we did when we were pitching Series A for the first series of investment for Elastic. Is we had a vision, sure, we had a bunch of downloads and we had a somewhat experienced team, but at the end of the day, I think that what made it work was that we could combine kind of the vision and back it up with hardcore download numbers. There wasn't much more because there was barely a website, mm-hmm. and there certainly weren't any customers. So we had that, but also we backed that up with market data, like analysis from key market analysts and kind of expected growth numbers of the total addressable market across the various regions, across the various market verticals. So you really try to map your vision towards an actual trend that's kind of already happening in the market. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then
that can be validated.
That can be validated. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the what we had, it was the kind of the luxury style position with Elastic, is when we started pitching our company, which was brand new, we could point towards Elasticsearch, the core open source product, already being adopted by many startups.
Based on the number of downloads or actually usage?
Well, actual usage. So there were actually already kind of portfolio companies of some of the investors we were talking to, of whom we knew that they were using our product. So we said, well, yeah, talk to your portfolio companies. Yeah. And yeah, that helped a lot.
Yeah. You just made a very, very interesting and important point, I think, is the issue about timing. How do you know that you're building your product or launching your project at the right time?
Yeah, quite honestly, there's no one answer to that. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing it's a gut feel, plus maybe it's just a gut feel. I don't know, mm-hmm. But you try to kind of triangulate certain things that are going on in the market. So number one, I think that there needs to be some sort of a pain point, either known and explicitly communicated by your potential customers, or something that you see emerging. It's not being articulated just yet, but you know that the pain is there and will get even worse in the future. So that's kind of one thing. The other thing is that the pain point, as you believe it will be there and will be worse in the future, mm-hmm. is something that actually ties into a business problem that justifies a spend. Because mm-hmm. sometimes there's a pain point, but when you start thinking about it, you think, okay, look, it might be a pretty big pain point, but there's a cheap solution for it. Hire this person, hire that person. there's a cheap solution. But
so your clients or your customers should be prepared to pay for the product you're.
That's absolutely. And that's for example.
Do you really advise startup founders to think in that way? Because there is a nice, interesting, funny cartoon actually in Silicon Valley. There is a bar with 1 million of visitors, but nobody wants to pay, and everybody is happy that it's a big success. You don't agree with that point, or because there are, for example, even WhatsApp is now thinking about a revenue model because they're still not earning anything. So, how does this tie to the point you made?
Well, I think that's actually a great question. There's different models, right? I think in the world of open source, but also WhatsApp in a way, you typically first go for adoption. So you want to create something that has the capabilities of going viral and getting hundreds of thousands, millions and millions and millions and millions of users all over the world. Well, I think that is a very viable model as long as you at some point can kind of, I don't know whether it's called flipping a switch or kind of bend the model a little bit or evolve the model ideally a little bit into a model that ultimately allows you to generate revenues. Because, well, I don't think there's any company out there that that can declare itself successful, commercial company, if they spend way more than they earn and never can get to cash flow positivity. You know, EBITDA positive earnings is a totally different thing because you can be successful without ever, running a proper profit in the books. But at some point, you have to be cash flow positive. And I think that is important. And some companies are that from the get-go, or very, very early on in their life, and others. And many open source companies, for example, are first go for adoption, and then they figure out once they've really invested in understanding the usage patterns by their users and figuring out, okay, well, this is what people are using it for, so this is something that I can do and build next to, on top of, or do besides my current thing that I can charge for. Yeah. But the timing there is pretty important. If you go too early, it hurts adoption. If you go too aggressive, it hurts adoption. If you go too late, you start bleeding cash left, right, and center. So it's kind of a little bit of a juggling act there, but yeah.
Retention before revenue. That's
adoption before revenue for sure. Absolutely, yeah.
Last point. There are rumors in the Dutch startup scene, and it's quite a big thing because in the Netherlands we only have one unicorn, which is HitEnter, which we are all proud of. There are rumors that Elastic is also a unicorn, so you're valued above $1 billion. Is that correct?
Well, last time I checked, we were not a mythical horse with one horn on its nose, right? So valuation is an interesting thing. I think there's definitely importance to shareholders because, well, the more you're worth, and if you want to raise a certain amount of money, the less you have to dilute. But on the other hand, I think that if that valuations have been greatly inflated for quite some times, super young startups got massive valuations, and I think that ultimately hurts your ability to really become a viable company in the long term as you actually work towards either an M&A exit or an IPO if you want to go all the way.
It can hurt in which sense? Because there are a lot of positive sides also, at least that's what you hear and read.
Well, the reality is that if you're becoming too valuable, there's actually really not that many positives. Okay. It can be, one thing can be if your company actually is pretty sucky, well, having a massive valuation can generate a lot of buzz, and it's marketing effectively, right? So it can be a recruiting, marketing thing that you use.
Slack actually, for example.
Slack is one, but the thing is with Slack is that Slack has massive, super fast revenue growth. Yeah. So for them, within a very large, still addressable market, it actually kind of makes sense that they're worth a lot. Also, these guys don't burn a lot of money. Right? It's a very healthy organization. I think on the other hand, there's lots of organizations that got, at least up until about 6 months ago, got really high valuations when the underlying business model was not great. To get back to your question about the downside, if company enterprise value gets inflated too highly, you can get to a point where it actually becomes difficult to take the company public because there's too much of a discrepancy between what the private markets were able to pay for you and what public markets will bear as a valuation. So yeah, you see that, and there's quite a few examples out there that companies have to take a massive haircut on valuation when they go from late stage private company to being a public company.
So Elastic's not a unicorn. We can state that.
Well, we are not a white horse, no.
No, okay. Steven, it was really a pleasure to have you here with us. Thank you.
It was fun to be here. Thank you very much.